to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today's episode is going to be all about, are you overthinking or are you self-sabotaging? And this is going to be a great episode for you if you tend to think things like, if I can just think this situation through one time, just kidding, more like 15 times, then that'll be good, right? Or you might even think, I just don't want to react the wrong way. So I'm going to think about this conversation. I'm going to look at these texts. And before I say anything, I got to just, quadruple, triple, all the centuple check. Or it might look like I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify within myself or with them before I say anything. Or you might be in the space of, let me just figure this out over here. Let me just kind of like ruminate on it over and over again to see if I'm just being dramatic first, right? So if that is happening, one thing that I know and I see is technically nothing is typically wrong, right? And I just want you to ask yourself, have you had done those kind of behaviors, let's call them, and then you look back and nothing was actually wrong? And at the same time, nothing's been wrong, but you're just imagining these future conversations or situations or events that haven't even happened. They're just kind of just floating out there in your mind. And a lot of times there's also this pattern of trying to predict how they're going to respond, right? So you're trying to see into the future, into this imaginary crystal ball so that you don't get hurt, right? And the ultimate cost of that is that your brain just cannot relax, right? You just can't relax. And you're filled with so much dread, so much anticipation, and not like good anticipation. You're filled with just like anxiety. And really, there's just no evidence, right? And this is so exhausting when you tend to be this type of overthinker with anxious attachment or relationship anxiety because your brain can't stop, won't stop, and not in a fun, cute way. And you're in this mode of overanalyzing the relationship versus just being in the relationship, right? And if that sounds like your cup of tea, then great. Then you're in the right spot. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach and I love helping high performers with receipts to prove it. You've got letters behind your name, maybe MD, RN, things like that, Esquire, or maybe you have a couple of letters behind your name. You're an academic, or maybe you're in finance, or you're this entrepreneur. And while you have it all buttoned up and your brain is your superpower when it comes to your career, it is basically blowing you out in your relationship because you cannot stop overthinking. You are really struggling with ruminating or making up things in your head that aren't even happening. And you're spending a lot of time over analyzing and putting a lot of pressure on yourself and unintentionally on the partnership. And at the same time, it's really maybe making you feel more disconnected or actually just creating a lot of issues in the relationship. So if that is you, you're here. Love that you're here. And so let's dive into it. So the thing that I see when it comes to overthinking or, am I overthinking or am I self-sabotaging? Am I overthinking or self-sabotaging? And that might even be the thing that you are saying to yourself. This is not uncommon for a lot of people that I work with where you are highly self-aware. Like you have read books and you know some things about your emotions and you have an awareness. Certainly, I would say if you were to compare, a lot of you would say more than your partner. I have some thoughts about that, but the kind of pattern that I see is this mentally, like you're mentally rewriting things, whether that's the conversation. Some of you can really get super in your head. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this, you're in your head, but some of you can like really play out full on novellas and what's the other, like not novella, but just soap operas in your head around what's happening, and really nothing's happening. So that can look like actual scenarios in your head, or it can look like you're texting them or you're trying to respond and you're just rewriting, they're probably watching your little bubbles pop up and pop down and pop up and pop down because you're just rewriting it. You're running it through ChatGPT before sending it off. There's also this piece where you might be, and so is it overthinking or self-sabotage? Like, you're practicing your tone, right? So you might rehearse the conversation, or you kind of edit the conversation so that you don't come across as needy, right? Because Lord, heaven forbid, right? Because you don't want to scare them off, right? You're so freaked out that they're going to get scared. So you start acting scared. And there's this huge overwhelming fear that if I say something and they think I'm being needy, then that can't happen. You might even be planning how to bring things up. So I was thinking about in the past when I was really heavily anxiously attached, I would I would do this like girl math, you know what I mean? Where, have you seen that meme where it's the woman and there's all these math problems floating around? But really trying to manage or control when I wanted to talk about an issue. So, for example, if I knew that Craig was playing soccer or we were going to a concert, I really didn't want to bring things up. And this happened a lot because we were long distance ish. I'll just I'm thinking about this whole example where we loved to go out and party and go listen to live music. And we still like definitely less on the partying, but live music and like going to events. And I really would spend time, because we weren't in each other's neighborhood, Monday through Friday. I really felt a lot of pressure internally that I couldn't bring things up, or I had to really be conscious because I didn't want to ruin our weekend together. Can't do that. Can't talk about things. So really practicing how to not sound needy, and also just like planning things out. And ultimately what that can even look like is just editing out how you really feel so that it's more palatable, right? So instead of saying the heart of what you might be experiencing, or the heart of what you want to convey, you kind of cut it down. And I see this happen so much. Well, I told them that. This is like so classic with my one-on-one clients. Like, if I had $1 for each time, they'll be like, well, I told him this. And I'm like, okay, really? Let's talk about it. And we will go through a process, and by the end, and there has not been a one where they have said, I told him this, and we go over the conversation and they're like, oh wow, I did not say what I thought I said. I'm like, I know. And that's one of the powerful things about when we have somebody on our side to kind of reflect what and be a partner in that, and looking at, okay, actually I really thought I said that. It kind of becomes this like form of self-sabotage where we really think we said it. We really thought we conveyed how we felt. We really thought we said all the things that we wanted. We really can convince ourselves. And the reality is that sometimes we have blind spots. In fact, we all have blind spots. Every car, any car that you drive, Lamborghini, Range Rover, Land Cruiser, I just like made a whole word. I don't care what it is, a golf cart, right? They're going to have mirrors, right? We all have blind spots. We can't drive golf carts on the highway, but every car has mirrors. Every car has a blind spot. So love you so much. The last episode we talked about being a high achiever. Love you. You're not perfect. You have a blind spot. So when it comes to just this whole piece of self-sabotaging and thinking that we said something, I love you, but I guarantee it, you probably, if you have this history of being anxious in your relationship, then you probably didn't say what you thought you said. And that is also what's so frustrating, because I know that you feel like you're highly self-aware, right? I get that. You know emotions, you can talk about them, you get it. And at the same time, while you feel self-aware, when they pull back, you automatically assume that you did something wrong. Right? There's this kind of reflex, a reaction into, well, what did I say wrong? What did I do wrong? Where, looking back at the text, like what did I mess up? And I totally understand that. Again, something that I realized recently, especially I got a whole like list of like family things going on, and the Super Bowl was a couple weeks ago, and I was just thinking, well, some people train for the Super Bowl. I feel like my Super Bowl is going to the Philippines in 2026 because I am seeing family members that I've been in no contact with. I'm looking at all of these deep patterns, and I feel like this is the deepest of deep of really facing abandonment and facing where these patterns, we learn them to survive, right? So yes, this is self-sabotage, or your version of it, whatever you do to self-sabotage, or that's over analyzing or overthinking or being perfect or working hard. All of this is because you're trying to survive. And I realized with this trip coming up and navigating talking to a dad that I haven't talked to in 11 years and planning for him to meet Craig and seeing family members that I haven't been in contact with, I've really noticed and realized, oh, I can get in my own way. And there's definitely this self-sabotage that can happen where for my particular flavor, I'm a Virgo moon, so it can look like definitely saying things perfectly, really trying to get the words right. And everybody's protection's a little different, which is why I love using astrology as archetypes, because we all have different flavors of how we protect ourselves. And I really noticed for me, my version of how, in trying to feel connected and open to this experience, because what I want from this is the version of me on my deathbed to look at this experience and say, I really handled that with a lot of love and a lot of compassion, and I showed up fully being me. And I just really saw how my own self-sabotage was kind of getting in my own way around just perfection and saying the right thing and trying to micromanage an experience and how all things played out. And it's been a really powerful learning experience. And I really saw how important it is, if we want our relationships to go well, if we want to feel connected, that requires us to open, that requires us to trust. And when I look at clients, especially when it comes to the overthinking and self-sabotage, when you hear yourself or notice yourself spiraling and it just keeps happening anyway, a lot of this self-sabotage, you can replace that with self-protection. Like you're just trying to protect yourself. And one thing that I know and that I've experienced, that I see with my clients, and it's also part of why I include so much of this in the Healing Girl Gang, because a lot of times we need reflection, we need mirrors, we need to see the deeper patterns. And when we look at that impulse, when you're overthinking and you're trying to get it right, and you kind of need an answer, right? You want an answer, you want to say it right. And a lot of times it comes from this inability to sit in the unknown, right? So I think about this experience I'm going to have with my dad. Like, there's a lot of unknown things. I don't know how I'm going to act when I get there. I don't know how he's going to act when he gets there. Well, I kind of know my intention. I know my intention when I go there. I don't know how he's going to act. There's all these factors, like what's it going to be like to talk with somebody that I haven't seen in 11 years that had such a huge impact on me. And when we are looking at healing, healing is about our ability to sit with what we don't know. And one thing that I know can happen when you're constantly kind of seeking their reassurance and you're trying to think about what to say is that the reality is you actually don't want their reassurance. What you're doing, that act of overthinking and self-sabotage, is you're trying to find relief. I'll say that again. You are in chasing their reassurance, in chasing their reassurance, you're actually, the thing that you're craving is relief. And it's easy to want to go to them for relief. And I'm not saying that your partner shouldn't give you compliments and be steady in that way, but when you are, if this is like, if this becomes like an addiction, right? If you are, it's like, I'll just have one more drink, I'll just have one more drink, I'll just like, I'll gamble, I'll gamble this last hand, right? I'm gonna do it. You are literally feeding the cycle of the anxiety and the addiction. That's why reassurance can feel like they give it to you and then it just fizzles away, because it acts like an addiction cycle. So I know these are hard things to see, and I get it. And we can't change what we can't see. So if you can't name it, prove it, or point to it, it's definitely not intuition. It's probably a fantasy in your mind. So I love doing these episodes. I'm feeling so much better from my hysterectomy. I think you can maybe feel my energy better. I'm feeling finally like myself again. And I'm sending you a lot of love, honey. Mwah.